Pleasure to
Thank
sit
you
in your
so
company.
much.
No, man, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that you're very, very busy. So let's get straight into how you became BFI South Bank's head of cinemas and events.
Well, I was saying that it was great. I was really excited that you come and talk to me because 10 years ago when I was here at the BFI doing a project called Black World, I did the same interview with The Voice,
Wow.
with the arts and culture team.
Brilliant.
So it's kind of nice
Full
sort of
circle, yeah.
to
Good
come
luck.
back. So effectively my background has been started at the BFI right after I graduated working as a film programmer with a very special interest in African diaspora cinema, and have worked kind of internationally in that area. So particularly looking at, I've always been interested in what we call exhibitions. So the bit, not making the films, but the bit where you show the films to audiences. I think there's a real power in sitting in a room with other people watching work that just amazes you. And so I've always had an interest in that, and always had an interest in kind of bringing strange work to audiences who might not normally get to see such work. So that's sort of been my drive. So I've spent a lot of time doing those kind of works with lots of large organisations like the BFI. I was at the Toronto Film Festival for 5 years, and also working cross art form actually. So I've worked a lot at the Tate and the South Bank Centre.
Right.
So what's great about coming back to the BFI now as head of the programme at the South Bank venue is that I'm able to bring all of that expertise together to think about how can you bring really strange, brilliant, obscure, but also popular work that speaks to people, emotionally moves them, and how do you bring those to audiences who don't normally get spoken to? Right. So they're the things that I'm interested in.
So how have you gone about bringing the system together? Because it's a new role, so there was no framework to hang anything on. So how has that been?
Yeah,
was that your first
that's a
challenge?
good point. I think the thing with it, I call the South Bank Centre, or most venues of this size, it's a bit like a really well-oiled, very fast-moving train.
Right.
So when you join, you've just got to jump on, and you've got to find the rhythm, and you've got to somehow find your way to the front of the train. So I think that's what I've been doing for the last year.
Right.
And along the way, looking at different things in terms of working with the programmers really carefully, looking at how they work, how they source work, the kind of questions and conversations we have around that, working with our learning and engagement teams about how can we create conversations and context around the work that are interesting and playful and speak to broader audiences. So we've done lots of experiments this year,
right,
which have been really kind of fun. So
things stuck?
Yeah, I think some of the highlights were we did a thriller season this last year. So one of the things that we were really looking at is how do you create an international story around thrillers. So how do we bring African thrillers in? What are there African thrillers? If so, what do they look like? And there are some very, very good African thrillers. So we were able to show films like Wulu, it's a great Malian film about drug dealing. It's almost like the African Scarface. It's a wicked film.
Okay.
Films like that we could bring in. And then also, how do we take over the whole building to explore thrillers from all sorts of different angles? And we brought in speakers. We brought Jim Chuchu from Kenya over from the Nest Collective, alongside some guys from Denmark with an interactive, immersive experience called the Doom Room, alongside academics, alongside people who write thrillers, in a whole day takeover called the Big Thrill.
Right.
And that was a really good experience for us to say, how can we create something more dynamic around having conversations around what cinema is and what it means. And that was a real highlight for me, because what I love about being at the BFI South Bank on the South Bank is that you're right in the heart of London. London is the most diverse city in the world, intergenerational ages, people from all over the world. How can we make the venue feel like that? And on that day you could feel it. You could see London in the building.
So it's a success then, job
I loved that, I loved that.
What have been some of the challenges? Because that sounds like a huge success story.
Yeah.
What have been some of the challenges?
The challenges are, it's lots and lots of moving parts. It's a live venue. It's like you're putting on a live show all the time.
Right.
So you're dealing with film distributors who sometimes the date of the film moves, so sometimes you have to change everything at the last minute. You're speaking to new audiences in a different way, so we have to try different things to do that. So how do we engage with social media in a different way? What kind of ambassadors can we bring in? What are the challenges? Also, just how do we create spaces for international work, for example, work by Black directors in a space that is quite a mainstream space? How do you create kind of interventions in that?
Yeah.
So we have to try things. Lots of those things don't work, but we have to keep trying them. The Black Panther moment was a big moment for us. Huge. We did the first public preview of the film. A product like Marvel would never normally be at someone like the British Film Institute because we champion independent cinema, but it was really important that we marked that moment. Everyone got behind it. So looking at how, not do we just work with Disney and the BFI, but how do we work with local artists, Black artists? We Are Parable, fantastic activation, right? So we work with them. And we just did a whole amazing takeover in Afrofuturist market. We got great DJs in. We did a whole, but that pushed us all. Pushed the building. From the projectionists, the technical staff who have to stay late. They were wicked. They were loving it. So it was really about how all of us had to do something different, from the front of house to technical to the bar staff to us and the program team. But it's the right time, I think everyone's ready to do something new.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think we've been ready for a while, to be honest, but
yes.
I think all the moving parts are ready, and I think that's probably the most significant thing. You mentioned We Are Parable.
Yeah.
How important are innovative, movements like that who are bringing film to an audience that wants it and wants to experience it in a different way?
Really important. And I like the way that you use the word innovative, because that's how we choose our partners. It really is. There are lots of people doing things. There's fewer people doing things innovatively and with excellence, and they're the people that we're looking to partner with. And We Are Parable, in terms of what they did with their Spike is 60 year, they've got day jobs. This is what they were doing in the evening. It was brilliant, and so I've had my eye on them for a while.
Wow, so have we actually.
Yeah, really good. So when this opportunity came up, they were the first people I called, which is like, can we work together on this? And we're definitely going to be doing lots more things with them. But they're the partnerships are really important, actually, and so finding the people who we think are really exciting to bring in. The London Indian Film Festival, we've been doing some work with them for years. They roll with us. They really kind of look at how they can engage with our program, how can they bring something different. Film Africa, the same. So we're developing together, really. We're developing our program alongside theirs, and we're learning from each other. So that's really important.
How important is it that you're in position to do these things? Because when I saw your appointment, it was almost like a breath of fresh air. It was like, finally, someone who I can approach who will get it.
Yeah.
No disrespect. I walked through this office and I didn't see anyone that looked like you and me. So it's great that you are there. I want to know what you think about it.
I think it's critical. I think when I've been working, like I say, I graduated. I'm much older than I look, though. I let my grey hair show now.
As you should. Wisdom.
I let my grey hair show and for that reason, because I've been in this game a long time. I first came to the BFI in 1992, and I was working in places like Black Audio Film Collective and that before that. So I've got a long history of doing this kind of work. That has to go somewhere. There's nothing more frustrating when you've got all of these ideas and you've got this experience, but there's nowhere to put it.
No conduit.
That's it. And so on a personal level, it's important to me, because this learning can have impact for a lot of people, but it has to have a space in which it's got to have a scale in which that can be implemented. So I think it's really important. It's really important for one's own sanity, but it's also really important in terms of how that is then able to change the cultural landscape. The only way you're going to see things change is if people with these really strange, diverse, niche nooked experience actually kind of have a voice and a way to implement it.
Agreed.
It's very important.
So you talked about the last year briefly, and I can imagine it was a lot more in depth than that, but just in terms of what you'd like to see implemented over the next year, let's touch on some of that.
It's a good time to be talking to me, because I think now we've got a year's worth of experience. Like I say, it was jumping on the moving train and learning as we went, and now we've got a bit of time to pause and go, what have we learned, what's worked well. The things that certainly have worked well is really linking our merging everything we do, so merging how we do events to how we create event and moments around our film program. Doing that much more unified is really important, really works. making sure that when we're doing that, we're always thinking of the range of audiences around our locale. So how do we integrate everything that we do, so we're speaking to a range of different audience. So for example, our May 68 season that's coming up next month, we've got a program with films from America, from Africa, from Latin America, from Asia, and that to me is what the world in London looks like. So our programming should have that kind of integration within it. So we're having fun doing lots more of that, speaking to younger audiences, working with Future Film a lot more, connecting with there, looking at next gen talent, and making sure that we're not just promoting the people who are dead and gone, but the people who are coming through. So there's loads and loads of ideas, and it feels like you were saying before, the time is right to do this. There's lots of will, there's lots of excitement and energy around doing it. So I think we've got some big things.
Are you here for a while? Are you in it for the long haul?
Yeah, when I joined, a friend of mine who runs the Toronto Film Festival I used to work with, he said, "Congratulations, Gaylene, I've heard you got this job, great." And then as I walked off, he went, 5 years. I said, "Huh?" He said, 5 years before you'll see any real change. And I was like, 5 years is a long time. But now I've been here and this year's gone so fast, you realise that actually, to make change happen in a deeper way, sustainable way, it's at least 5 years before you can do something well, it works. So I think it's, I think I'm going to have to be
here for 5 years, at least. The 5 year thing, because you mentioned that you were at the Toronto Film Festival for 5 years as well. How valuable was that experience? Because I know there's so many things that have contributed to where you are now, but that specifically, because it's the gravitas of that festival resonates all over the world. Talk to me about that experience and what's picked up.
That's a really good question. Super important, really important for a number of reasons. So I'd had a relationship with the Toronto Film Festival for about 10 years before that. Right. So again, stemming from my time at the BFI, that I was working in the research division, and so we had this international reach, and we worked a lot with the Toronto Film Festival, seeding films and ideas. So anyway, that relationship built, and it led over a long period of time to me having more and more of an investment in it. And then they said, "Look, why don't you just come over and program for us?" What that did, a number of things, is it put me into this international pool. So I worked with this international pool of itinerant programmers. None of us really quite lived anywhere. We were between Greece and Colombia and London, and we would kind of travel the world and get to see this work in these different environments. It gave me the space to source things out. So I was programming Planet Africa, which was the African diaspora section. So I could go, you know what, something's happening in Zanzibar. I think I need to go over there. Or I remember doing this program based on Trinidadian cinema, because there was this moment in Trinidad that was beginning to happen. So it kind of got me to drill deep down into areas that normally you don't get to. And Toronto particularly very supportive of that. They want to find what's new that's happening in different places in the world. So that's why Toronto was great, is I got a real sense of an international scope, what was happening, and then learned how to work on the international platform. So you're dealing with international sales agents, international distributors, international festivals, and that's really important for this job.
Going to be a couple of young people looking at you, trying to work out how they can emulate some of your success stories. Talk about an entry point into this game, and how one can maybe start to map out a route towards becoming where you are now.
Well, I didn't have many sort of supported ways in, but now we're living in a time where that's happening a lot more. So for the BFI, it's got the Film Academy, for example, which is this massive network of internships and apprenticeships and spaces to learn how to the day-to-day working within the industry. The new Star Wars film's coming out soon, and there's a whole bunch of people who worked on that who came through the Film Academy. The Future Film guys down at the BFI are amazing. They meet once a month. Noel and Yari do great work down there, where I was there on Saturday. It's just a really committed group of young people who come and they just learn from learning how to manage your social media account to learning how to create a development strategy for your film. So there's loads of assisted ways of doing it, and the BFI are doing some great ones. So I think they're really good things to look out for. I think the most important thing, if you're interested in exhibition, working on this end, is to watch loads of good movies. I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of people.
How many movies have you seen, Gaylene?
Oh my gosh.
If you had to put a number on it. Sometimes people ask me how many locks I've got on my head. I don't know.
Okay, let me see. Oddly, since I've taken this job, not that many. Right. I'm so busy organising, I barely get to play them while see it. But I suppose especially in heavy programming days, I had 10 slots to program at the film festival.
Wow.
I would probably watch 1,000 films for those 10. So you'd watch that many, just churning them out to find those films. So a lot of films, but what that did, not
some millions,
probably, not a lot of great films. But it's important to understand what makes a film great. If you're interested in programming, you've really got to understand why does that film is more worthy of support than this one, and you can't shortcut that. You've got to sit and watch.
Got to do the hours.
£3 ticket deal at the BFI, South Bank. If you're under 25, you can come to anything, rock up on the day, pay £3 to watch films, to see big talent, to go to all our events. So there's no excuse.
There isn't.
No excuse.
If you had a magic wand,
yes,
how would you use that? Say you had 3 areas of the film industry, and not just your specific area of exhibitions and event delivery. There was 3 areas you could touch to improve. How would you improve them? What would those 3 areas be?
I know exactly what one of them would be. Is I would recreate what Channel 4 had in the late 80s, early 90s, called the workshop movement, where they effectively bankrolled emerging independent film companies, and just said, just give us talent, we've got you for 5 years, we'll pay your staff, we'll give you production budget, just make stuff. And what people like John Comfort came out of there, Isaac Julian came out of there, Nadine Marsh-Edwards, whose new film has been backed by the BFI, Been So Long, is coming out with Michaela Cole and Irinse Keane later in the year. They would not have learnt their craft without that kind of support. So I think it's really hard if you're an independent filmmaker now to be supported. Right. So places like the BFI are really important for that. But I would be like, let's just get a bunch of people and just for 5 years, just give them money, just let them make stuff. That'd be one thing I would do. I would definitely, if I could magically change the ways that decisions are made and possibly who makes some of those decisions. I think, there's nothing. Again, it takes 5 years to make any real structural, sustainable change. But having a different set of people with a commitment to making that change, I think would be great. I think we have some great people doing it. I think finding a way, it's very hard though, I have no answers. You do need a magic wand to find a way to go, you know what would be like if there's a different energy around the space. I think that's really important. I think, what would be the other thing? This is weird. I think I tell you what I would do is I would increase our attention spans. Right? Okay. I'll tell you why.
Elaborate.
Because I think social media, I'm the worst offender of this, has shortened all of our attention spans. So we're used to watching things really quick, really short, and wanting quick results. The best cinema comes from being able to take time with it. And you really learn how to sit patiently with one idea over 2 hours or something. And I think we're losing that. Right. And I think that's having an effect on how we act as people, how we are with each other. But it's also affecting the communal experience of watching films. So I would say somehow I would love a magic wand to increase my attention span so I could spend more time doing things. Maybe more time. Maybe I'd give us all more time.
Do you know what? I got into the cab this morning and I said to myself, even if there was more hours in a day, we'd still say there ain't enough. So 24 it is. Right. But no, I understand. I take your point. Probably impacting on the filmmaking as well as the way that we consume.
Yeah, film. I think so.
So the whole process. What's that on your wrist?
This? Yeah. It's a bangle.
Where'd you get it from? Slice?
I got it from, I can't disclose my sources or do advertising.
You do not share?
Or other things.
Share?
I got it from a high street store.
Right, fair play, fair enough.
Are you enjoying it?
I liked it. It contrasts against the clouds. I'm into all that stuff. That's probably what it is. Right, listen, how's your week look? What are you tackling this week, this month?
Good.
And did you celebrate a year in this role?
I'm going to. I've decided. I told the whole team I want champagne and roses.
God,
so they know.
But listen, you heard it here first. I love that though. That's good. I think you should.
I think definitely. But it's also going to be a really good time. I'm going to celebrate by doing a massive analysis of the past year. That will be.
Can you share that with The Voice?
Me. And we'll share that with The Voice.
Good.
What have we actually learned from last year? So I'm looking forward to getting into that.
What's your best film at the moment?
My favourite film
this year.
My favourite film this year, that's a very easy question to answer, normally it's not, it's 120 BPM by a guy called Robin Campillo, which is playing at the BFI right now, which is set in the 80s, and it's basically a very personal film, but it's about someone who's part of a group called ACT UP that were AIDS activists or activists against the government in terms of their treatment of AIDS sufferers. And it's beautiful and it's an elegiac, and it's called 120 BPM because the biggest scenes are set in the clubs. So after they do their activism, they go and they dance, and I've never seen club scenes like that. You've got to see it in the big screen.
I'm going to check it out myself.
Yeah.
Gaylene Gould, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Thanks very much.
Love to catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Joe.
No worries.